this all come about? Well, let's see. It really goes back quite a ways. I remember my dad and my uncle talking about communication with a person that they had grown up with in Germany. This was a few years ago. It had been going on for a little bit. I wasn't quite clear. I knew that the Red Cross was involved in bringing them together, but it was just more as a curiosity interchange between my dad, Gunter, my uncle, Walter, and this person in Germany that they were friends with as kids, Elfie. Well, earlier this year, late last year, there was discussion about maybe getting together. What had happened was that my uncle passed away last November, and my dad and Elfie were talking, and Elfie was very concerned that she may never see her childhood friends again. And my dad, I know, had for a couple of 2 or 3 years was looking for ways to try to meet up with Elfie in Germany, but with health issues and family issues and other things, it never really happened. And then finally, after my uncle passed away, there was a sense that this better happen. So it started being discussed more. I was getting a little bit nervous about my dad and mom going off to Germany so far away from San Francisco on their own. But my brother and sister and family thought this is a good thing, so I thought, yeah, it is a good thing, but I'm going to go along with them because I was a little concerned about the whole thing. But through the correspondence with George and Doris, Doris being Elfie's daughter, I became much more comfortable about the whole situation through email exchanges and their very gracious way of inviting and assuring that everything was going to be good. And that's how I got deeper into this great event. And as over time, I learned exactly how everything started. It started with George. George, back in about 2001, I guess, had heard a story or a presentation or a talk by the Red Cross about how they have a service of finding people that have been lost through one disaster or situation or another. And George had known that Elfie had been talking about the Ullman family for years, and that after they left Germany back in late 1938, she had lost track of them. My parents, my dad, and my dad's family was in no great situation to start exchanging correspondence with all the challenges they had of trying to stay alive in this strange place called Shanghai at the time. So George, hearing the stories from Elfie of her childhood friends and neighbors, got interested in this Red Cross program, filled out the form back in 2001, and submitted it. The form included information of what he knew about the Ullmans, basically their names, where they were from, and where they went. Well, it seems that about 7 years later, in 2008, George got a message from the San Francisco Red Cross that they had located the Ullmans. Well, that's where we were living, of course. Pretty much my entire family, except my brother, is all in the San Francisco area. And the Red Cross, I'm not exactly sure how they did it, but they identified my Uncle Walter and communicated to Uncle Walter of Elfie in Germany trying to reach them. So everything was agreed, and they were put in touch with each other. And that was back in, I guess, about 2008, 2008, that all began. So the information was exchanged. My dad, of course, through my Uncle Walter, then became aware of Elfie being there and trying to locate them. And so the three of them reestablished contact, reestablished communication, and it was really quite a remarkable thing. So a horrible situation was kind of, brought to happy get-together through the through the wonderful efforts of the Red Cross. How they did it, I still don't know, and I hope to learn that one day of how they were able to do their sleuthing and their detective work to identify a family so far away when the last thing they knew is that they were in Shanghai and maybe not even clear on their true identities because of how paperwork gets lost and shuffled and et cetera, et cetera. So that's how the Red Cross brought them together, and then as this discussion of actually reuniting, of my dad and Elfie reuniting, that's when the Red Cross again helped to facilitate things. Any questions we had, any concerns we had, the Red Cross in the New York chapter, which I guess was running the activity, was very sympathetic, very encouraging. They were kind of, I wouldn't say staging, because I have to really give credit to George and Doris for really helping make this happen. But they gave encouragement and information and support, and having been exposed to other similar situations, they were able to give guidance in a little bit on, at least to me, which I conveyed to my parents at the time, on how to think about it, which was really, really nice and helpful. So I thank the Red Cross. I thank George and Doris. I thank Elfie, and of course I salute the strength of my dad and my mom for really jumping beyond themselves at their age. Again, my mom's going to be 85 in a week, and my dad's going to be 90 in a month and a half, 2 months, and Elfie has just turned 90. I mean, this is not an easy activity of meeting people that you haven't seen in a long time, traveling across the Atlantic for such a long flight. But it all came together, and I salute everyone that made this possible. It was really, to be there, to feel it, was not anything I could have prepared for. I thought I was prepared for it, but then to be there and to feel it and to see them and to touch them and to experience the whole reunion, and not just reunion but reuniting. And then you think about all that's happened in the last decades and how they were separated in the first place because of the Nazi era. It was something that you can only feel, and at least in my limited manner, not really be able to speak to. So thank you to everyone, and thank you Red Cross for being a strong impetus to make it happen.